Okay, so in this last part of our presentation on skin, we're going to talk about skin cancers. We'll give you some definitions of what a cancer is. Cancers are an abnormal cell mass. Cancerous cells, first off, have forgotten who they are. They have lost their ability to limit growth, and they no longer exhibit the kind of contact inhibition that we normally see. Uh, most cells in our, or the cells of our body, actually have several mechanisms that have to be uh, overturned before a skin cancer would occur. Now, I'm going to tell you, and it may be a little bit frightening, but every one of us has had some sort of cancer. Our immune system is very active. We have some very specialized cells that go around and look for body cells that aren't working right, and they destroy them. Um, when that mechanism fails, when a cancer cell is not recognized as a cancer cell by our body, that's one last way that growth can be allowed to occur. Now, cancers are classified in a couple of ways. Benign, and this is generally a slow growing uh, tumor that does not spread. It's often encapsulated, that is, it's got a wrapping around it that will keep it from spreading. But don't be fooled by the word benign, because benign just means that it's not going to break loose and show up somewhere else in the body. You can still have a deadly benign cancer. If it is in an inoperable location, it can continue to grow until it cuts off some vital function. Okay? Now, malignant cancers, these are ones that metastasize. And metastasize just means move to some other part of the body. And essentially what happens there is that a cell or two of this cancer breaks loose from the tumor mass and either gets in the lymphatic tissue or in the bloodstream and gets carried somewhere else. And there's nothing to keep it from starting growth again in those areas. Now, the most common type of cancer is skin cancer, and the types that we're going to talk about are caused largely by overexposure to sunlight, ultraviolet light, in fact. Now, skin cancer types, there's several, but we're going to talk about these three. We've got basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and let me see, malignant melanoma. So basal cell carcinoma is the least malignant. This grows slowly. We see it all the time. It is the most common type. We see this on the noses of old farmers. It arises from the stratum basale, and what happens here is that these cells at the stratum basale will actually die out, and you'll get this ring that is referred to as being like a rat bite lesion. You get exposed connective tissue below, and this kind of this round inflamed area. And it looks something like this. Now, I don't know that you can see this, but we've got this ring of tissue here that's sort of pocketed in, and then we are seeing a lot of connective tissue here. Now, these can be quite disfiguring because when you remove a cancer, you have to go the same width out on either side that the cancer is. So for this tumor, they're going to take out an area about, this is a wide excision biopsy, but this person has just lost a nostril. Now, as I said, this is slow growing, doesn't metastasize, not fatal, but potentially disfiguring. Squamous cell carcinoma can metastasize. It doesn't do it rapidly, but it metastasizes ultimately to lymph nodes if it's not removed. Early removal, you've got a really good chance of survival. Uh, well, it is believed to be sun-induced, just as the previous, and it arises from a different level of the epidermis. Either way, we have this sun-induced type of lesion. I don't care that you know that that came from the stratum spinosum. But do understand that this is sun-induced. Now, squamous cell carcinoma can also appear in areas that are not exposed to sunlight. We see this often in intraoral tissues. This is a common mouth cancer that arises because of exposure to alcohol and tobacco products. And because it's inside the mouth, it is often undiagnosed for a long period of time, and people can have significant loss of tissues as a result. This is squamous cell carcinoma, and one of the things to look for if you're looking at a cancer is, does it have multiple colors? This is reddish. Red lesions certainly are things to be concerned about. Border shape, other things. In fact, we have this set of rules to look at and evaluate cancers with. So we'll talk about those in just a moment or two. Still, skin cancer types, one of the most deadly is a malignant melanoma, and we have to see this a lot in women who like to sunbathe. It is the most deadly of skin cancers. It can grow very rapidly, and it is a cancer of melanocytes. Now, melanocytes get activated upon exposure to sun, and when we get something that is growing and actively productive, that's where damage can occur. That's when they are susceptible to damage. It metastasizes rapidly to lymph and blood vessels and can end up anywhere in the body. One of the common places that we see is actually in the brain. A lot of brain cancers are metastatic melanomas. When someone is diagnosed with a brain cancer, in fact, because the tissues of the brain themselves rarely become cancerous, they start looking for skin lesions. Now, the detection is through this ABCD rule, which I'll show you here in just a moment, but this is a typical melanoma. Again, darkish colored, irregular borders, and this person has at least lost, I don't know if that's a toe or a thumb. It really looks like it must be a toe. So, here's the ABCD rule. And this is supposed to be applied to melanomas, but the fact is it can be applied to any kind of cancer. See, if it's asymmetrical, moles, freckles, things like that, they're round. But if it is differently shaped on any one side, if it has two different pigments, basically two sides of a mole that just don't match. It's not quite round. Border irregularity. And let's take a look back here. See how ragged those borders are. Okay? That's a good sign. Sometimes you can't tell quite where the lesion ends. This looks like it stops here, but then I sort of see some additional things going on off to the edges. So, border irregularity. Color. If you have two different colors, you need to get that checked. If you see a red lesion, you need to get that checked. Now, a lot of us have loops of capillaries up near the surface, and if you push on that, you can the color will go away for a second or two before it comes back. So don't worry about those. But reddish lesions What happens is that cancerous cells recruit blood vessels, so they end up having more nutrients. Um, if you have red, black, a group of other colors, then you definitely need to have it looked at. In fact, they refer to that as a scrambled egg appearance. And look, we have reds, we have blacks, we have browns, all through here. If it is larger than 6 millimeters in diameter, um, basically about the size of a pencil eraser. Now, moles, we mention moles because those are areas that tend to convert from just being a discolored patch to skin cancer. They already have an excess of melanin production. They're often raised. So you need to have your moles checked regularly. Now, most people have 7 moles. Easy to check. If you've got some in areas you can't check, get a buddy, but have them looked at. I have about 40 moles just on my right arm alone. I was blessed. So I have to look at all of those on a regular basis to make sure that nothing's going on, because there is a family history of skin cancers. In my family, my mom's had several moles removed. So if you've had a family history of this, this is something to be aware of as well. So that concludes our discussion about skin cancers and the characteristics of them. Be sure that you know the ABCD rule. Understand the different types of cancer: the melanoma, the squamous cell carcinoma, the basal cell carcinoma, which is more malignant, which is less malignant, what is the difference between a benign and a metastatic, or a benign and a malignant form of cancer. Know what metastasize means. So, I hope this helps you. Thank you much.